Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to coverage of this, the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Championship from Circuit Park Zandvoort. Will Vincent here along with Dan Blake. And Dan, before we go live, I think it's only pertinent here to just very quickly take a moment and remember the life of Colin McRae, because of course today is the anniversary of his death. Colin McRae, of course, losing his life in 2007, September 15th, so 7 years today. And when you think about motorsport legends, and I'm going to use the term legends here, and I don't really often do so. Of course, back in the 90s, you had Nigel Mansell, you had Damon Hill, and arguably you could put David Coulthard into that mix as well. But as far as rally driving went, we had two guys, Richard Burns, Colin McRae, who are equally as good as each other. Of course, we've lost them both, but Colin McRae was, to many people, not only a rally car driver, but someone who always just managed to find that way to push it to the limit. And of course, in rally car racing, in so many ways, it's funny. If you crash, you actually get a cheer from the crowd because you know that you're being pushed to the absolute edge.
Yeah, as you say, Colin McRae, probably one of the generational icons of rallying.
Fortunately,
also,
we haven't got any sound. 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, just bear with me. That is completely my fault. There we are. Carry on, Dan.
yeah, Colin McRae probably was one of the generational drivers as such, was someone that everyone, if people knew motorsport, they knew Colin McRae. And it wasn't just his rallying as well. Highly successful, also had computer games named after him as well, the Colin McRae Rally Games. And it was a real loss to British motorsport, both him and Richard Burns, but definitely one of those generational idols in motorsport.
And it was such tragic circumstances as well that McRae lost his life. A helicopter crash involving his 5-year-old son as well. And also, let's not forget, two friends, a horrific accident. And arguably, you know, we could be talking about young Johnny McRae being at some point very soon in motor racing. In fact, he'd be, 12 years old now. And we could very well have been seeing him moving himself up the ranks in junior Formula.
Yeah, karting, or as you said, junior Formula. So a very sad loss, obviously, with Colin's dad, Jimmy, also being a fantastic rally driver. It could have been a third-generation driver. You see that sometimes in America with your third-generation drivers, and it could have been our very own motorsport royalty family as such.
Indeed, so today's broadcast is in honour of the life of Colin McRae, and again, his entire family as well. Unfortunately, his young son, Johnny, died in that crash, as well as two friends of Colin McRae. This broadcast today is dedicated to him. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in just 1 moment's time. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this coverage of the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Championship from Circuit Park Zandvoort. Will Vincent, along with Rachel Whiteford and Dan Blake. Qualifying is taking place right now. We're going to go ahead and show you the latest action from the racetrack. Qualifying is underway, as I say. We'll get that up on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see Graham Carroll right now is currently leading the way. There you see him on the racetrack. And Dan, qualifying as it stands right now, Carroll has himself about a 0.3 of a second advantage over Ward. Adcock is over half a tenth of a second back.
Yeah, fantastic performance so far from Graham Carroll. That is quite a leap to have. And Graham Carroll, someone who doesn't just race to Skip Barber, he also races a touring car on Thursdays. So very versatile, and be very, very happy at the moment to be top of the charts, but at the top of the qualifying. And Richard Avery is someone I think we might see creep up a little further in fifth at the moment. Also, we've got the Povey and Adcock. They were drafting each other in practice, so expect them maybe to have a bit of team tactics as well as the session goes on.
And this is one of those tracks as well. Very long straightaways here, Rachel, especially coming out of Aaron Lyodine corner, the final corner on the racetrack, leading yourself down that very long front straightaway. And then, turn number 1, you've got banking on it as well, so you can make a pass on the outside line should you choose to do so.
Absolutely will. This is one of those great open wheel racetracks. It's twisting, it's turning, it's got long straights, it's got some very rewarding corners. And these guys are going to really have a good run. Of course, Graham Carroll and Richard Avery, two of our stars from last week at Barber Motorsport Park.
Indeed so. Working on board, Graham Carroll, he will come past the start-finish line. We'll get a lap from him. 1:55.778. Not as fast as he has been previously, but he will carry on around the racetrack. Let's check in then with Simon Povey, currently running 3rd place in qualifications. He's on a lap right now, about 1:30 into it, working himself through the Audi S-Dam, and he's got himself a couple of corners left to go. Say he's 0.3 of a second back as he continues.
Yeah, 0.3 of a second back, and the laps are taking about 2 minutes here. So in the 20-minute qualifying session, they get 10 laps. We've had about 10.5 minutes of the session, so coming down to the last 3 laps now, it's quite interesting to see that he hasn't actually got his teammate with him this time. He's going to go solo. His lap before was a 1:55.8, which was his fastest lap. And will it be an improvement this time? The lap is a 1:36.2, so 1:56.2 even. So no improvement there for Simon Povey.
Yeah, as he works himself back in turn number 1. We've got our gyro cam out for today. You can see that banking down in turn number 1. It's an absolute ton of banking. And Simon Povey will stay on board of him through this very difficult first couple of corners. Through turn 2, so himself, car getting himself a little bit loose there, but getting a nice inside line for turn number 4. Car just wanting to skrill out on him. And then this section of the racetrack, Rachel, it is incredibly fast. Or maybe Dan.
Yeah, as they come out through, as you said, do the 3, 4, and 5 and 6 section up until they get to Marlborough Corner. It's a very, very fast section. We could see some quite close racing. And also, we saw an incident on the track a second ago. The number 16 of Chris Hansen, a driver who I raced in BUK Silver and Club 100, coming out of turn 2, spun it round, got back going. But it also looks like Graham Carroll's got a bit of wing damage as well.
Yeah, we'll have a look there with Graham Carroll. As you see, he is still working himself on that, trying to do a little bit of that good old drafting as they work himself along the racetrack. Right, I'm just trying to figure out where he is. I think he's actually at the end of a lap. You can see this is going to be a slower lap for him, down in the 1 minute, 2 minute range. So some form of incident for him. He will get a draft though, Rachel, as he works himself down this front straightaway. But that traffic ahead of him will hurt him throughout the rest of Sector 1. Dan?
Yeah, the car in front of him is Tim Adcock, so Tim Adcock in 12th position is a little bit slower, and then also the car of George Wiseman. So 2 slower cars, and as you said, I think it will impact the Graham Carroll lap there. Also, we got still pretty much the same as before. We've got Stuart Adcock in 2nd, Tom Moore 3rd, Simon Povey 4th, and Richard Avery rounding out the top 5 and 5th position.
Yeah, and you can just see that at the back of the shot, a little bit of a tweak there. And there you can see it there, definitely on your screen. As Adcock continues to work on a lap, you can see that Graham Carroll has indeed got himself a little bit of front wing damage. He is, however, Rachel, on another lap. And this could hurt his progress, but he's got himself still a nice cushion to Stuart Adcock. And there you see Adcock on your screen. We'll check in with him because he's about 50 seconds away from potentially getting pole position.
Yep, absolutely. Graham Adcock's got a bit of side pod damage as well. He's been pushing hard this session. There we go, see on the camera, he's got a right wing end plate bent. Oh no, we've got a car spinning in front of him. Not entirely sure who that
Tim
was.
Adcock, and we get a
Adcock.
replay of that because we were talking about Adcock a little bit earlier on and Carroll being in the ward. So let's get ourselves a replay of this. And this is, as we say, Tim Adcock. And you'll see just right about here, you see a car off the track. And then Tim Adcock just looping it, slow spin, making contact. Both of those cars are turned around. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll step aside for 1 second. We'll be right back. Please stick with us. ladies and gentlemen, we didn't want you to hear any bad words here at Circuit Park Zandvoort, but here we are, working with Richard Avery right now. He's only down in the 5th position on the racetrack, Dan. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. We talk about passing opportunities out this track, potentially better than any other that we go to all season. Some very long straightaways, some good opportunities to make a pass. We're still being down in that 5th position. Avery is almost over 3.5 tenths of a second off the pace right now. Got a little bit of work to do, as we've now just got ourselves 5 minutes and 15 seconds on the play clock.
And also, it didn't help his last lap was a not certified lap, so he may have gone off the track and the stewards decided that the lap wouldn't count. So, bit of pressure maybe time for Richard Avery, but as you said, starting 5th at this track might not be the worst thing, but you got to imagine, I don't know what's going to happen going into Tarzan, because that could get quite lively as well. But Richard Avery has the straights, but depends what happens on that first corner. We saw in the iRacing Grand Prix race, Gregor Hutu have a first lap incident, so maybe a case of that happening again, but we hope not.
Yeah, indeed, Richard Avery will come past the start-finish line, and will he improve his time today? Well, the answer to that question is going to be he does not improve his time. So Richard Avery remains in a 5th position for the time being. But there you see Simon Povey just coming around the bend. We'll work on board of him for just 1 second. And Simon Povey, well, it's been a nice little run for him so far. Down in the 4th position, Rachel. Again, 3 tenths of a second off the pace, but very close to the rear of Ward. Just literally 6/1000ths of a second separating these two drivers. And of course, yesterday I was talking about drivers being separated by tenths of thousandths of a second, but 6/1000ths in a Skip Barber is mighty close.
Absolutely close. That is literally on the other guy. This track is going to be an equaliser. Qualifying times will be a factor, but in the race, it's going to be about who can keep it on the track. There's some tricky corners here. We've already seen people making mistakes. Even our current pole sitter, Graham Carroll. Everybody is going to be watching that car, and I don't think they'll be going quite as fast in the race, because of course, to finish first, you must first finish.
And there you see, having a look at Povey just coming round into Arrow Line Dyke corner. We'll go back on board with him just now. One very fast flick left to go for Simon Povey. Will he be able to improve his qualifying time? Dan, he will get himself 2 additional laps. So, Povey's still got a chance to move up, but he'll come past the start-finish line. 1 minute 55.5 is pole position. Who comes past, moving in 1 minute 55.858. Not quite close enough there for Simon Povey.
Not quite. Very, very close to improving his time. As you said, he has 2 more laps left. Another driver who has improved, though, is the number 98 car of Clark Williams, up into 8th place. His last lap of 156.195, so an improvement there for Clark Williams.
And he had a little bit of draft to that last run as well. There's a couple of cars just behind him on the racetrack. As we'll have a look, you see, coming through the hill, there you see Clark Williams, and there you see, I believe that's the number 24 car of George Lambert, indeed. So now Lambert will actually get that draft this time by, and Rachel Lambert's in a good position potentially to leapfrog up a place or so. Richard Avery could fall outside the top 5 in qualifying if he's not careful.
George Lambert's always a sly one. He always finds that way to find a little bit of extra time, and hopefully that will improve him, but, you know, he will be in a good position wherever he starts.
They work themselves down to the Audi S once again. A great sequence of corners there. There you see them coming down into the Audi S. You first of all make that left hand that you see. Then that car will flick to the right. And unfortunately, we've just actually completely lost our camera. But there you see cars working themselves on the exit of the Audi S. Then work themselves down towards Ari Lyndike corner once again. And for Lambert, not a bad lap this time, but I will work on board of him as he works himself out of the conclusion of Ari Lyndike box. Let's keep an eye out on his lap times, because his fastest lap of the day has been a 1 minute 56.064. This does look to be good. He's going to get a lot of draft as he works himself towards start finish line. Will he improve? Yes, he does. 155.777. Does not improve, though. Yes, he does. He moves up to P2 on the racetrack. That draft was critical for him, especially in that run to the start finish line there, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. The car of Clark Williams went a little bit wide, kicked up the dust, and that just allowed Lambert to edge a little bit closer. Use that to full advantage with 155.760. He's still, though, over 2 tenths off Graham Carroll. So Graham Carroll's lap still standing, and 2 tenths in this Skip Barber. It's actually quite a lot, so he's done well with that time there.
Povey comes back past start finish line. He does a 1 minute 55.8. Does not improve his time or his position. 1 minute remaining on the play clock. You've got Adcock. There you see Adcock on a run right now. Actually, just, I believe, allowing a car to go past him. There you see we're running on board with Adcock. And then there might be a car just to his right-hand side. Right about here, actually just behind him on the racetrack. There you can see Stuart Adcock, and there you can see working themselves through the Audi S. Unfortunately, our 360 cam working a little bit slowly today, but Stuart Adcock continues on the racetrack. 44 seconds left on the play clock. Adcock will get one more bite of the cherry. You've got Carroll off the racetrack, Lambert off the racetrack, Ward off the racetrack. So you've got ourselves just 2 of the top 5 remaining in qualifications here. Adcock will work himself past the start-finish line once again. Will he be able to improve on his time? The answer to that question is going to be no, he won't, but he'll get one more stab of the cherry, Rachel.
And hopefully he can improve with that. But we have one interesting upset for this race, guys. We have Simon Hulbert, the 44 car, sitting currently in last place, 23rd on the starting grid, with a lap of 3 minutes and 1 second. Now, either he's had a terrible day so far, or he's sandbagging heavily. We might look to see him coming through that field very abruptly.
Just having a look at a couple of other drivers on runs right now. You've got yourselves Rich Jones working himself towards the conclusion of his lap. The checkered flag is out. So the drivers' laps that they are on, this will be their final lap. Rich Jones works himself past start-finish line. Can he improve on his time with 17th place? The answer to that question is going to be no, he won't. He brings that car on towards pit road. Adam Patterson also is on a lap. I believe he just lost out there. He won't get the opportunity to actually get another run. A little bit of damage to that car as well. You've got yourself still on the racetrack also Tim Adcock running himself in 12th position. He is halfway through a lap as it stands. Simon Povey does not get another lap in the books. We'll go back to another Adcock. That will be Stuart Adcock. He is now just 40 seconds away from potentially moving himself up the grid. Dan, it's pressure time.
It is, but also he's got damage to his front wing, I noticed. So it's a bit like the days of the touring cars I had the one-lap shootout. It's all or nothing, and it's Formula 1 as well. So he's got to do it all in this lap, and the damage will not happen, although the damage seems to have gone away now. So a bit weird that, but yeah, Stuart Adcock his last chance to make something happen. And also Chris Hansen had a little spin as well off camera.
So then, Adcock just now, 1 corner left to go. Avery is still on the racetrack. Fahim Atinides is still on the racetrack. Dominic Brennan's on the racetrack. Avery does not improve his time, so he will start in the 6th position for this event. Atinides is still on the racetrack, but we're keeping our eye out on Adcock. He works himself now towards the start-finish line. Can he improve his time? The question is, no, he doesn't. He does not improve his time. Yes, he does.
Up to second wheel, so the good run there from Stuart Adcock to go ahead of George Lambert, but Graham Carroll's time looks like it's going to be unbeaten, and that will be pole position for Carroll.
Yeah, and Dominic Brennan there, you see, coming past the start-finish line. Unfortunately, our cameras have gone a bit blurry, but there we are. Dominic Brennan, P10 for him. Tim Adcock now just working himself past start-finish line, and he will just about get himself into 12th place, and Brendan O'Brien comes home to round out your top 15. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a conclusion of qualifying. So then, to run through your starting grid for this, the Skip Barber Racing School Championship Club UK and Ireland style, it is going to be on the front row of the grid, Graham Carroll and Stuart Adcock. Row number 2, George Lambert and Tom Ward. Row number 3, Simon Povey and Fahim Atinides. Row number 4, Richard Avery and Clark Williams. Row 5, Rob Green and Dominic Brennan. Row number 6, George Wiseman and Tim Adcock. Row number 7, Sam Everest, Mark O'Donnell. Row 8, Brendan O'Brien and Alan Patterson. Rest of qualifying coming up on your screen. Rachel, who is going to win today?
My money's going to be on Graham Carroll. He was our star last week at Barber Motorsports Park. And, of course, not forgetting Richard Avery. So I'm going to put my money on Graham Carroll.
Dan, who's going to win it?
I think I'm going to go with George Lambert, starting 3rd place. The issue with Simon Hulbert, we gather, has got a technical issue with throttle pedal, unfortunately, so it looks like he'll be a non-starter in this race.
The cars are beginning to line up on the racetrack. They're getting set to go racing here today for a total of 13 laps around Circuit Park Zandvoort. But the cars are lined up on the racetrack. To say we are just a couple of moments away from qualifying, looking high up above around this beautiful racetrack set in the Netherlands. And there you can see the mid part of your grid. But Graham Carroll, there you'll see him on pole position for this event. Will it be his day to shine? We will find out in just a couple of moments' time. 20 seconds until those lights will go on top of the iRacing.com gantry to go racing here today. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, this coming Sunday, we'll have ourselves the ISWC Indianapolis 500 here exclusively on RaceSpotTV. But first, we go racing, Skip Barber style. The lights are on now on top of the pace car. Who will it be as the cars get set to go racing? The lights are on, and this race will start right now. Good start by your first couple of rows. All the cars coming down towards turn number 1 for the first time. But it looks as though it's not going to be Carroll leading the way into turn number 1. He'll be the number 52 car. Great start by him as the cars swarm down into that first corner. They're going to be 3 wide as they come down into Tarzan Bucks for the first time. Side by side racing in your overall battle for the race lead. Adcock, though, is to the point.
Yeah, great start from Stuart Adcock, and I have to wonder, maybe it was either he might have jumped the start or it was a fantastic start. Seemed to leave Graham Carroll standing at the line, but behind them they're going too wide. Fahim Antonelli's in the thick of it.
Yeah, the cars warming themselves through this, the second slowest corner on the racetrack. Does look as though everyone is through okay, Rachel. But now you can't rest just yet because you are going to be pretty much nose to tail. And Graham Carroll is on the charge right now. I don't think it'll be close enough, though, as they work themselves down into this corner for the first time. They're almost 3 wide. You've got a car at the rear of the field, just all 4 wheels on the grass, but getting away with it, Rachel.
Yeah, great start from these guys here. They've had a really clean one. Really nice to see him getting away. Poor start there from Graham Carroll. He just bogged down, it seems.
Running on board with Mark O'Connor running himself in the 14th position, trying to make a move right now over Sam Everest. Doesn't get the job done there. So he remains in that 14th position for the time being. A little bit closer up the field. Richard Avery, a bad start by him as well, right along board. CC getting himself a good run as they come down towards the Audi S. But here is Richard Avery in that number 17 car. Again, not quite close enough to make a pass, but in the same time, we've got a battle for the race lead. There you can see Carroll and Adcock still pretty much nose to tail. Then you've got George Lambert in that one as well. Damn, this is mighty close to your top 3 drivers right now.
Very close indeed, and Lambert was closer to getting past Carroll than Carroll was at Adcock there. So, but it'd be interesting to see what happens to this draft as they come down the straight. I think we could see some 2 wide action going down to Tarzan on the start of the second lap.
So then, riding on board with your pole sitter, Graham Carroll, relegated down into second place. He has got himself a 0.4 of a second cushion over Lambert, but now you see Carroll looking to the outside of that number 52 car. They were side by side into one. Carroll, can he make that outside line work? The answer to that question is going to be almost contact between those 2 drivers. Carroll will keep it on the inside line, but there you see Lambert ready to fight as well. And Graham Carroll will just get that job done. And what a pass. Graham Carroll back up into overall race lead, but runs a little bit wide there. That is going to allow that number 52 car right back behind him, Rachel.
Yeah, really good job there from to look after that car on the grass. He did the right thing. Might hold on to this one, and I think he just tough part to put the track to pass on now, so he could well hold that.
Running aboard with Richard Avery down in that 7th position. Again, a bad start by him, dropping himself down 1 position, but right now he's in that huge gaggle of cars. The draft is going to be incredibly important, as we actually see Lambert will go back to his onboard. He was all over the rear there of Adcock. Will he try and slow it down to the inside? Dan, no, he doesn't, but Lambert is looking racy in the early going.
Yeah, these top 7, 8 cars are all bunched up together. It's just great racing, and I think Graham Carroll's going to try and make a little bit of a break, but as they come down onto the little straight here, I don't think he's about to pull away very much because he's got the cars of the Stuart Adcock and George Lambert in close attention.
So then Adcock, he is trying to go back on the move, but you can see car actually just trying to get to the rear of him. That is George Lambert, and there you can see the gap as well. Actually, you won't be able to see the gap. Unfortunately, our timing and scoring isn't up to date on that one just yet, but this is the rear of Stuart Adcock. They work themselves now down towards Ari Lindite box for the second time in this 13-lap event. Adcock has actually got himself a good run, though, as Carroll kicks up a little bit of dust. This could allow Adcock now to return the favour and go to the outside. Rachel, you are going to have, though, the leader and defend heavily that inside line down into turn 1.
He's going to have to try really hard, but he might just do it. He's taking an early inside line here. As Adcock does still on the outside. I don't think he's going to make it, though.
No, they'll stay side by side through the corner, and it is not going to be Adcock stay there. And of course, you've got to be aware of the pressure behind, because Adcock almost lost the position there to George Lambert as they continue to fight on the racetrack. Great battles going on for P2, P3, P4 behind them as well. They are pretty much going side by side in battle for position there. You've got Fahim Atanides, Richard Avery battling for position, and just behind him as well, down on the field, you've got Sam Everest battling really close now with Mark O'Connell and also Tim Adcock. This is P11 through 13 on the racetrack, Dan.
Action all over track, just what we like to see, but it has been a bit of a gap pulled out a bit further back there, but also going into turn 1 there was almost a fantastic move by Simon Povey on Tom Moore. He got braked really late, the car was squirming under braking but just managed to hold it. They went side by side, but Paul was able to hold into position, but that was another great move into turn 1 that nearly carried off, but it just shows that there's going to be some frantic overtaking, I think, in this race.
Indeed, sir. It does look as though, from our camera angles, that Adcock is just a little bit stronger through that middle section of the racetrack. The thing that he needs to do, though, is make sure he gets a good run out of Vodafone corner, which he didn't do that time by Rachel, and that sets him up at a little bit of a deficit now through the LDS. You're not going to be able to pass here. What you need to do, though, is get a good exit out of here, because the next corner, Arrowline corner, really is a case of just flipping that throttle pedal, getting yourself set, and then flooring it. If Adcock can do that, potentially you'll have a chance to make that move at that next lap.
That's so true. I mean, this car's so fickle. You drive it on the throttle, you're cornering on the throttle even. These guys are balancing it on the edge of performance, and you can see them getting wide, getting tight. They really are working these things hard, and it's all about that corner exit wheel.
So then, just having a look at our field as they come through in towards Ari Lyndike. Great camera angle, but there you can see as well, battle for the race lead doesn't happen that time by as they come down into turn 1. They almost go 3 wide. You've got to pick your line here, and George Lambert, he might have the opportunity now to try and go down the inside or right along board of him. And Dan, in the latter stages of this race, as those tyres start wearing out, you might see some guys try and be really brave and go on that high side, because there's about 4 different ways you can take that first corner.
Yeah, Tarzan one of the great corners. So we see here side-by-side action further back between Richard Avery and Fahim Antonaz. I think Avery was just about to make the move stick there.
Yeah, and they are battling for position, and Avery will move ahead. No, he won't, because they'll stay side by side for the time being as they work themselves. There you can see Richard Avery. There you can see Atanides right behind him, but Fahim will slot back in line for the time being. We'll get ourselves a replay of that one for you.
Another thing to note was while they're battling, they've actually dropped back onto that front pack, so that's something else these drivers got to consider in the 5th, 6th position, that they could fall out the draft window by battling each other.
So here you see replay, side-by-side racing, Avery and Atanides. They remain side-by-side. There you will see Atanides just having that inside line, not being able to get anything done. Then actually coming out of the corner, Atanides, who is actually a little bit ahead, but lost a little bit on that gas pedal, trying to get back onto the power. Avery was able to get himself up, and that is why he is now classified in 6th place on the racetrack.
Just got a bit of information for you, Will. Alan Patterson in the 14 car had a spin a minute ago, and he's fallen to the back of the field.
So there is Alan Patterson. We'll see if we can pick that one up on your replay, because Patterson has had a bit of an up and down season.
Oh, contact! Audi S is big contact.
And let's have a look, see who we can get from that one. We will come back to the Alan Patterson incident in just one moment, because we believe it's Brendan O'Brien who is off of the racetrack right now. You see him just coming back on. So let's put up our replay and see if we can get that one. We've also got, well, it looks like Graham Carroll isn't coming up. Yes, he's okay, but we'll get a replay to see what happened there. Rachel, Audi S is not a place to lose your car.
Absolutely, very slow speed corner there actually on the apex of that one, and a tough entry to get it rotated. They came in there too wide, and it looks like he just got turned around by the car of, I believe that's the number 16 car, Chris Hansen, turned him around on entry.
Yep, so we'll get ourselves one more look. This one will be on board then with that number 19 car. We'll see whether we can see anything as they come down into the corner. There you can see the contact made, Brendan O'Brien, and there's number 147 car involved in that one as well. But it's one of those things, Dan, Audi S, you do not want to really be too close to drivers, because it can get mighty difficult.
Yeah, because they can stack up quite easily going into the corner, obviously, with the Concertina effect. So that's one of the danger zones on the track. And speaking of danger zones, Stuart Adcock under a lot of pressure from George Lambert. He was alongside Graham Carroll, but in the end he found himself under attack from George Lambert and has just about kept the position. But Graham Carroll has pulled out maybe a couple of tenths. The two behind him were fighting out there for a little bit. And a big slide there from Lambert as he went through the they turned down towards the Audi S. So
yeah, and right behind him as well, Tom Ward. He is going side by side right now with Simon Povey. This is the battle for 4th place on the racetrack, and he will ride on board there with Ward. He will have that inside line down into the Audi S. Looks as though he's going to cut across a little bit there, but they remain side by side, coming out the corner and spinning behind is that number 78 car.
Yeah, Simon Povey lost it on the exit there. He's going to be not getting any damage, I don't think, to anything, luckily. So he's going to get it back, but it's going to drop him down a lot of places in the order.
Let's get ourselves a look at that one then. And you say you had Tom Ward involved in that one. This is them working down again into the Audi S. Rachel, the Audi S has caught themselves already a couple of victims. But in this circumstance, it does look as though it was just a self-spin from that number 78 car.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously we can't see what the drivers are seeing on their own screens, but it looks like Simon he was doing everything he could to keep that inside line, and it was just too tight.
And there you hear the sirens from Rotherham as Simon Povey brings himself back out onto the racetrack. There you can see a lot of time lost by him. They're now classified in the 13th position on the racetrack. Let's then check in with your race leader, Graham Carroll, with this race getting close to its halfway point. He now has a gap of about 0.8 of a second over Adcock. Lambert a further 8 tenths of a second back. Avery and Ward, they are now battling for position, just 2 tenths of a second separating them as we go on board with Tom Ward. And it does look as though that Ward is on the move so far in this race. He is back in his net 5th position, lost a little bit of ground early, Dan, but now back up into 5th, really putting the pressure on Avery in that battle for 4th.
Avery's actually just gone past Tom Ward, so Avery's up into 4th position. It's the opposite way round, real. Avery's the one on the move at the moment, but yeah, Tom Ward a solid top 5, and they've actually pulled away a bit of a gap now between them and the rest of the field.
And there you can see Avery is up 2 positions since the drop of the green flag here today. And we did talk about the bad qualifying for Richard Avery. He is, however, doing a little bit better right now on the racetrack. Just having a look at your retirees from this event. You've got Chris Hansen, Anna Patterson, Sam Everest. In fact, Everest, by the looks of it, is just coming out of pit road. There you see him coming out of pit road, just getting himself a bit of repairs on, and he is back out onto the racetrack in that treble 7 car. You have, though, also got, there you see, Anna Patterson on pit road, and the car just coming out of pit road as well. That is Chris Hansen, there you see, coming back out onto the racetrack. But that car, it looks like it's just a little bit too damaged to carry on. Here you can see, though, your train of cars as they work themselves now down towards turn number 1 again. There you can see your race leader, Graham Carroll. There you can see Stuart Adcock right behind as they come down into 1, Rachel.
Those cars are really close together on the track. That Stuart Adcock's been trying so hard, but as we've said so far, he has to defend from George Lambert, who is on a charge.
And also, Will, coming into the Audi corner last time, Tom Ward made a right dog's dinner of it, went very, very wide into the corner, and has lost a lot of time to Richard Avery, and now he's more under pressure from that group behind him, so he's lost quite a bit of time on that lap.
Yeah, and there we can see the second battle. We've got a car spun around there. That is, I believe, Fahim Atenides. So we'll get ourselves a replay of that, but Fahim Atenides is now spun around, and that is just coming through this very fast section of racetrack. Let's have a look and see what happened to him, Dan.
Yeah, Fahim Antonides was in the 6th position, and well, it looks like, just getting a replay up now, it looks like he's just lost it mid-corner. The car's come away from him, he's gone down into the inside across the grass, had a little bit of a spin, but it doesn't look like he hit anything again, so it's only going to be positionary loss. Nice little turn to get back round, but unfortunately for Fahim, he's lost positions on that mistake.
Yeah, and he almost saved it there, Rachel, just wasn't quite close enough. But Fahim Atenides got himself a little bit of rear wing damage as well, as he is, to say, now down in what is the 12th place on the racetrack, losing himself a little bit. And also, though, George Wiseman, there you can see him, is right up on the rear now of Dominic Brennan. This is a battle for P8 on the racetrack.
Yeah, if there'd been some extra concrete runoff there, I think Antonides would have saved that car. He had a good chance until he hit that grass. But yeah, George Wiseman really putting the pressure on now. Hopefully get that move done on Dominic Brennan.
I will have a look from the rear, and this is what you can see. Dominic Brennan right behind him. You've got yourself George Wiseman. There you can see the gap is about 4 tenths of a second on the racetrack. They work themselves out of the Arrow corner and back towards that start-finish line. Working ourselves now onto lap number 8 here at Circuit Park Zandvoort. Gap between these two guys is pretty close, but the gap for the race lead, that is even closer. Look at this. Stuart Adcock and Graham Carroll, they are going pretty much side by side as they work themselves now through that little kink and down towards turn number 4. Adcock all of a sudden is charging, Dan.
And that's because Richard Avery behind him is also charging. Tars on that lap, he's managed to get past the car of George Lambert, so Richard Avery up to third. But as you said, Will, with coming on to the second half of the race now, the attacks are starting to be a bit more pressing as such, and I think we could see Richard Avery get onto the back of this pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, let's have a look then. This is the pass. Richard Avery, you'll see him going himself to the right-hand side of your screen. That is him making up that position over George Lambert. Lambert looked strong earlier, but now starting to fade. A little bit of front wing damage there. You'll see it on your screen for George Lambert. He did try and come back, wasn't able to do so. Avery now up into the third position, but you, of course, got this mighty close battle that goes on between Adcock and Avery and Carroll, of course, who is momentarily your race leader. Now, for Adcock, the question is, does he attack or does he defend, Rachel? You can only really do one. You take an offensive line, you leave the door open to coming under a counter-attack, but at the same time you start defending too heavily, then Graham Carroll is just going to dance away into the sunset.
Yeah, he's in a really tricky position at the moment. With Richard Avery behind him. Avery's been already looking in a few times, and he's pressing him hard. But if he gets too defensive, trying to block Avery, he's going to lose Graham Carroll, who will just disappear into the sunset. He's in one of the worst spots you can imagine. It's either lose one position or maintain one and give up the lead, or chance for the win, I should say.
But here we go, on board then with Stuart Adcock. Will he try and go for the pass? You see, again, Carroll is defending heavily on that inside line. Here comes Adcock. He will actually just about get himself to the race lead there, but he doesn't hold it on that inside line. And here comes Carroll back around, and this is exactly what we're talking about. Now you potentially have the chance for Avery to get a move. Wasn't quite close enough to do it there, and that is what we're talking about. Down in Tarzan belts, you have got yourself 3 different lines. Thankfully, Adcock had enough there in the tank just to be able to defend into turn 2, Dan.
Yeah, very good defending, a very good driver from one of these 4. It is just currently these 4 for the lead. Everyone else seems to have dropped back a bit. There's traffic coming up now, the car of Murray A. Coots, so be interesting to see what happens when they come across him. Hopefully the number 55 car will get out of the way and let them through, but that could be another factor to spice up this 4-car battle for the lead.
And it is so difficult to make a pass in this very fast section of the racetrack. You hope that you catch them just as they run down into the LDS, Rachel, because that way you have the opportunity of the car just moving out of the way, allowing all these cars to go past, and it's a net loss of nothing for the guy going a lap down, really, because you're going to lose a couple of seconds anyway. It's better to do it in a way that's safer for everyone. And there you see, just moving out of the way.
Exactly, it's just good to get out of the way, make sure everything's clean, continue your race. However, I just want to bring your attention to something interesting. On lap 7, we have the 55 of Murray A. Cootis and the 25 of Chris J. Morris having a titanic paint swapping battle, ending in them both ploughing into the Armco.
We'll see if we can get ourselves a look at that in just a little bit. We'll try and find it after this race is complete. But as it stands right now, your top 5, it's Carroll from Adcock, from Avery, from Lambert, from Ward. Then Williams, Brennan, Green, Wiseman and Povey round out your top 10. And right now, things have settled down a little bit in the mid-pack. You've got Wiseman and Green. We'll come back to that one in a moment, because here we go once again. And this time, you notice that Carroll doesn't go immediately to that inside line, but look at that, that's a Barrichello moment there, down to the inside retaining wall. Now, I did hear a little bit of a scrunch.
Outside. Wow, Richard Avery saw that, and he tried to make it go around the outside. Could just about go a little bit wider there, but I think Richard Avery, very, very brave move though. He saw the opportunity, went for it, and it's going to have the inside line here, but it's not quite going to be able to cover it, but a bit of good driving there from Richard Avery.
Yeah, let's get ourselves another look at that. And I was just about to say, down in towards turn 1, I did hear a little bit of a crunch, but we'll get ourselves another look at this for Avery. There you see, car, second place car going to the middle of the racetrack. Avery braking as late as they can, pretty much free wide into turn number 1. Avery tries to make it stick around the outside, didn't do so that time, but now what he knows, Rachel, is that's potentially a chance he can make later on in the race, because this battle will continue. And very quickly, we're going to check in on this battle with Rob Green and George Wiseman. They are battling for position right now.
Yeah, more importantly for Stuart Adcock, he knows Avery's going to make that move. That gives him 2 different sides to defend now, and it's going to put him in an even worse place.
Avery trying to go down the inside there as they came into turn 9. Avery looking to find all these little positions, but you got to think that doing that, it's not really keeping his powder dry, as Rachel said.
Yeah, and also it's going to start hurting his tyres as well. So that battle between Brennan and Weissman, just 3 tenths of a second separating them on the racetrack. Rich Jones and Robert Plumley, those just 3 tenths of a second separating those on the racetrack. There you'll see the battle. Actually, we've got Rich Jones spun around. So we'll get ourselves a replay of that in just one moment, because these cars are going to come back down towards turn number 1, and it's going to be exciting here. But there is Rich Jones spun around on the racetrack. There you see him back out down into the 16th position. Back to your battle for the race lead, though. They'll work themselves once again down towards turn number 1. We will again go on board with Stuart Adcock, because this time he is going to go around the outside, but will he be able to make it hold on that outside line? Avery almost managed to make it happen. Adcock side-by-side contact between those two drivers, and that is now going to allow Adcock back into the 2nd position, and Avery isn't quite close enough. There you'll see, we'll get our 360 cam up. Avery not quite close enough to lunge down the inside into turn number 4, but contact that time by. This battle is getting very, very heated, Rachel.
Absolutely. Thankfully, that was wheel-on-wheel contact for our two leaders, because that could have been messy. But brilliant driving there. They managed to keep each other, on the track. Whoever caused that, well, I'm not going to speculate, but brilliant recovery from the pair of them to hold their positions, and this is going to hot up quickly.
Looked like a bit of a racing sorry as well. I was going to say, it looked like a bit of a racing incident, really, a bit of wheel banging, and with, as I say, we're coming to the closing stage of the race. You're going to see the drivers maybe take a little bit more of a risk than they would earlier in the race.
Yep, and there you saw the replay of that one. They will continue on the racetrack just for the moment. Clark Williams, by the way, is having a battle with Tom Ward. The battle for B6 by Hatchley. Avery is under attack there from Lambert. Lambert almost made a move down to the inside of Avery. Very quickly, here is your battle with Clark Williams and Tom Ward. Just 3 tenths of a second separating them. There you see, one board with Williams. There is a gap to Ward just ahead of him. He's not going to be close enough to make that move down into the Audi S. And just behind him as well, you've got George Wiseman and Rob Green. There you can see their battle, a 3-car battle involving Dominic Brennan as well, as they all come down into the Audi S once again. Now, this time by, does look as though that Carroll does have a bit more of an advantage. There you will see, as they work themselves out of out of Landite box, it's actually now going to be Avery who's going to have the better run of your top 3 drivers. Will work on board with Avery. There you'll see his speed just starting to spike, Rachel. Which way does he go? You can see Avery's going to have to go around the long way, but he's got now the draft of the leader. That will make it a little bit easier for him to move himself up into 2nd place. But there you can see going very wide, Avery. That might cost him 2 positions.
I think it's... No, he'll manage to slot himself back in. That was brave. I mean, we know he can take the outside line, but that was very brave. And you see him wobble a little bit as he nearly lost control. Nearly going back in the gearbox there, Stuart Adcock, but awesome driving up here, Will.
Very, very good driving. In fact, Avery just doing a little bit of a love tap there to Adcock coming out of the corner. Now, I don't think that will hurt him at all, but Avery is going to try and go down the inside. What a move is this? Avery around the outside, going to try and make it work, and he doesn't quite. He's now going to be hung out to dry into the next corner. What a brave move there by Richard Avery. Battling with Stuart Adcock. He has left the door open, though, and he has now got himself through. What a pass on the outside there, fastest point of the racetrack. And now you see Adcock is trying to make a move as well. Potentially Lambert trying to make the move, but Adcock is trying to come back. Nothing for him that time by. What an amazing sequence of corners we just had there, Rachel. As now down to the outside will go Lambert.
You can't even get a break here. These guys had it so hard. Yeah, brilliant move there from Avery, but it was a little wobble that Stuart Adcock had on the exit of that corner. He fought to control it and he saved it. Brilliant driving there, but he just gave up that position. That was hard fought, and let's see what Richard Avery can do now and try and catch Graham Carroll.
So then, let's ride on board. This was what happened with Richard Avery. You'll see he'll come out of the corner, and then we'll get our 360 cam working in just a moment's time, because you can see just finds a gap on the outside. In fact, almost the two made contact. Then watch this, around the outside he will go, he'll dance it, he'll get himself into position here, does the absolute, oh, you see the 52 car actually, Dan, got himself loose in the centre of the corner, under pressure. That is what allowed Avery through, and that's what also almost allowed George Lambert through, as we are now on to the final lap of this event.
And Adcock down the inside at Tarzan, as you said, with the last lap's boards out, so it's going to be, I think, quite intense last lap, but Avery just about to hold on. But the one person who would probably love to see that in his mirrors was Graham Carroll. Now has a 1.2 second lead, and I think that Graham Carroll now is probably the favourite to win this race, but the three behind are in a fierce battle for second place.
Yeah, we're riding on board the guy in fourth right now. That is George Lambert. You can see he's not quite close enough to do a repeat of Avery and move himself up. But these top four drivers have given ourselves one heck of a show. There you can see, though, your race leader, Graham Carroll, has got a little bit of lap traffic ahead of him. That's not really going to hurt him too much. But Graham Carroll now just half a lap away from victory, Rachel.
Yeah, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's not even a commentator's curse, he can pull that off, but lap traffic is never a consistent factor, Will.
And there you can see battle P2 to P3 as here comes Lambert around the outside. Not quite going to be close enough. Gap between those two drivers is literally just 1.5 tenths of a second now on the racetrack. Having a look from the rear of Adcock as they work themselves out of this corner. The critical part of the race now. If Lambert's going to get himself onto the podium, he's going to have to do it down into the LDS. Doesn't look as though he's going to be close enough as they come down, but he'll look down to that inside, being blocked a little bit there. Lambert over Adcock, and that is potentially now Lambert's chance done of getting himself a podium, unless he gets a very good run on the exit of Arilindai corner. Doesn't look as though he'll have the opportunity to get himself onto the podium. He'll try around the outside, down into that final corner. A little bit of contact between those two drivers, but meanwhile, it is going to be Graham Carroll clearing that lap traffic as they come into the start-finish straight. He will, actually no, he'll stay behind the lap traffic, but Graham Carroll will take victory here at Circuit Park Zandvoort. A great run by him, but second place goes to Richard Avery, our biggest mover in the top 5. Third place will go to Stuart Adcock. Fourth place will go to George Lambert, and those 4 drivers put it all on the line. Tom Ward comes home in 5th, Clark Williams in the 6th position, and then to round out the remainder of your top 10, Dominic Brennan in 7th. Then you've got Rob Green now just coming into your shot, George Wiseman in 9th, and Simon Povey rounds out your top 10. Dad, we can finally take a breath.
Yeah, I think one of the keys to Graham Carroll's victory was his start. It was a fantastic start. He caught the pole position. He caught the. In fact, it was Adcock had the good start. I beg pardon, but yeah, Carroll did very well to get past, and also Richard Avery starting 7th and finishing in 2nd. So great drive from Richard Avery there, but the great battle as well between the 4 up front. But Graham Carroll has come up tops again, despite the fact he had a bit of a poor start, able to get the cars past. He knew where to put his cars to defend, and that's what's helped him win this race, alongside with the others battling at the end of the race.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step aside for just one moment, and then we will be back with confirmation of final race results here from Circuit Park Zandvoort. You are watching RaceSpotTV for this, the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Championship. Stick with us.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing.com, has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 to Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93 39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's going to be the race for the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start-finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you love it.
here we go.
You love it. The 0-1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big show.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our coverage of this, the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Series from Circuit Park Zandvoort. And to run through your final race results, it is going to be Graham Carroll claiming victory by 1.2 seconds over Richard Avery. Stuart Adcock comes home in the 3rd position. George Lambert in 4th. Tom Ward in 5th. Clark Williams 6th. Dominic Brennan in 7th. George Wiseman in 8th. Rob Green in 9th, and Simon Povey running out your top 10. On to page 2, Mark O'Connell in 11th, Robert Plumney in 12th, Tim Adcock 13th, Rob Marshall 14th, and Bobby West in the 15th position. Rich Jones in 16th, with Sam Everest in 17th, Fahim Antonides, we saw him having a spin earlier on, down in 18th, Anna Patterson, difficult day for him, in 19th, and Murray A. Cooch runs out your top 20. Then to have a look through the rest of your field, there you see your retirees. Rachel, you were just saying, one commercial, a little bit of a discussion going on right now.
Absolutely. Well, a little bit of a dust-up on pit road, shall we say, between Graham Carroll, our winner, and Alan Patterson, the last car on the lead lap. As you would have seen, coming out of the last corner, Alan wasn't exactly the quickest to get out of his way. Now, Mr. Carroll believes that perhaps the lap car should have dove out of his way and thrown himself into the wall so he could come through and win with the gap he had. But, of course, as we know in iRacing, blue flags are advisory, not an instruction.
I think that's an important thing to remember under any circumstance. Of course, all league races, unless stated otherwise, make use of the iRacing.com first safety code, which, and it's one of those misconceptions at all times in any series except for the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Blue flags are for informational purposes only, and it is the responsibility of the passing car to make a safe and clean pass. However, it is advised that drivers being put a lap down make it possible or facilitate a clean pass being carried out, Rachel. So it is a two-stage process, but A, putting a car lap down can't just dive down the inside. B, if your car about to go a lap down, what you can't do is block the racetrack. If the guy does go down to the inside, you're then expected to try and facilitate that clean pass as much as possible.
Absolutely, but one of the critical points here is for cars about to be lapped to be consistent, and that usually involves holding your line. If they are actually faster than you, which being a lap up is probably the case, they will be able to pass you easily. Just maintain your line. It's a fairly common multi-class racing rule, and that was a subject brought up in that little discussion, but I think Carroll had a bit of nerves as he was in the final corner, going to win the race. Felt any impediment was, a terrible, terrible situation. But Alan Patterson, I can see where he's coming from. He was involved in a fight of his own, and coming to the final corner, he didn't want to lose time to a car behind him. Yeah, I can see his point of view. But, the guy who's about to win the race and doesn't want to lose to the guy in second is always going to have a different view to someone battling down the grid.
And Dan, it's one of those things, everyone has their own battles. Of course, if you are one car scored 6 laps down and pretty much running by yourself, then it's a completely different story. And I'm just actually having a look with the gap with Patterson and his nearest rival, which actually would have been Fahim Atinides. So Patterson was, off the pace a little bit today. He did have a little bit of damage, but overall, when you talk about lap cars, because I never actually like to put one person in blame unless I actually see the incident myself. When you talk about lap drivers, it's different mentalities for different people, and sometimes it's actually quicker for all parties involved for A, the driver putting a car lap down to just wait a corner. Don't overheat your tyres. Wait a corner, wait until you get a straightaway, and then actually make the pass. Because also you're going to get a little bit more respect from the car behind, that you're not all over its rear light. The car going a lap down, the same. Be consistent through the corners, don't panic, but then when you actually get onto the straightaway, it's quicker for you to allow one, even if it's 2 cars close together, pass, slot in behind you. You'll lose a net loss of time, a lot less than if you actually try fighting them, because then it's just everyone losing time, everyone getting frustrated.
Exactly. I've just had a little look back, and I think Alan Patterson's quite justified in what he said. He didn't seem to make any real sudden movements. He's done, obviously, I race in real life in the Hyundai Coupe Cup and the Nippon Challenge. In the Nippon Challenge, there are a lot faster cars than me out there, Nissan Skylines, etc. And you get that situation in racing as well. And it's exactly what the MSA say as well, which is maintain your line and let the car pass at the earliest opportunity. And Alan Patterson did seem to do that. He pulled over on the straight, but I think Alan Patterson really, as much as the car of Graham Carroll may be a little bit annoyed, it's I don't think Alan Patterson really has done much wrong there, to be honest, because if any of the cars in front of him on that lap had an accident or gone off the track, he would have been able to gain a position maybe. So I can see why he's done it, and I think Alan Patterson probably not have had the best of races anyway, so I can't see really that Patterson's at fault there. He's just done what he's meant to do, I think, really.
I completely agree
Let's
with you
not
on
forget
that
though,
one.
folks, probably not best if you just won the race to have a go at the series organizer.
Under any circumstances after the race, you always have this situation where tensions are high after the race. And I know that, of course, some really famous ones. You have a look at NASCAR. I remember, I think it was Clint Boyer literally doing a 5-hour energy run, jumping up and running halfway across Phoenix. And you do get them after races in all forms of motorsports. However, always just give it a couple of minutes. And that concludes, I think, what we're going to call our rant segment. What we should do is focus on what was a great scrap for that top 4, though, Rachel.
Oh, so true. We could barely get a breath, guys. I mean, Carroll and Avery and Adcock and Lambert, they were in a class of their own today. And George, I think maybe a bit off his form, his usual form, I should say, because George is normally one hell of a competitor. But Richard Avery came up the field from his starting position, which I believe was 7th. And he put himself in real contention to take this one. There were several times he could have passed Carroll and won this, but big battle with Stuart Adcock, and some brilliant moments from those two, including, I think it was Stuart Adcock who banged wheels with Carroll at one point.
He did.
So, brilliant, exciting race, guys.
And Dan, we do have to apologise because there were some great battles going on down in that mid-pack as well that unfortunately we just didn't get the opportunity to talk about as much as we would have wanted to have done. We're actually just having a look for the field, and you did have a nice little scrap going on for a while between Ward and Williams. That one calmed itself down at the end. We had a great scrap between George Wiseman, Rob Green for P8 on the racetrack. Wiseman came on top of that one, and then even down outside the top 10 you had some really good battles going on. For example, Robert Plumley, Tim Adcock, they were really close pretty much all race long.
Yeah, it's just the quality of the series, really. Alan Patterson's UK&I series, the Skip Barber's run for a very long time. Very, very high quality racing all through the field. And unfortunately, when the battles are going all through the field, it is very hard for the race director to decide where to put the camera. But I think, as you said, Will, some great battles across the field, and it is a shame we couldn't see more of them. But that battle between the top 4 really was enthralling, pulsating stuff.
Won't lie to you, Dan, it's very easy for the race director in this circumstance to put the camera on something. It's whatever he wants to talk about the most.
Okay, well, I'll remember that for future reference.
But of course, Rachel, we've still got plenty of racing going on this week. First of all, in fact, it's an IndyCar weekend pretty much now, because of course on Friday night we've got the Friday night IndyCars, which has turned out to be an absolute great series, and then on Sunday we have got ourselves the big one, the 4th running of the ISOWC Indianapolis 500, and I don't know any other way of saying this, but except for qualifying, which is absolutely crazy, especially on Sunday.
People were so close, Will. It was incredible.
And don't forget, you can join us for Friday Night IndyCars. That will be at 8 PM GMT here on RaceSpotTV. Their series will carry on. I have no idea when they're running, but they will be running it anyway. And then on Sunday, join us here. Special start time of 3:30 PM GMT for the 4th running of the ISOWC Indianapolis 500, the most realistic Indy 500 in all of sim racing, powered by And1 Design and in benefit of Orphan Secure. Got a couple of Club UK&I drivers running in it. Congratulations to Ellis Stevens for making the field. Also, Benjamin Gregory will be running in the event as well. And you can catch all the action, as I say, on RaceSpotTV. Special start time, 3:30 PM GMT, with a second onboard stream for you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a RaceSpotTV presentation of the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Championship, powered by And1 Design and iRaceForLife.org. For more information about RaceSpotTV, head over to RaceSpot.tv. Check me out on Facebook as well, facebook.com/IamWillVincent, at Will Vincent on Twitter. I'll see you on Friday night. Thank you very much for watching. For myself, Will Vincent, Dan Blake, Rachel Whiteford. We'll talk to you all next time. Bye-bye.